In today's video, we have a lot to cover, including another goaltender the Oilers may be targeting as a potential trade. This one, a little bit higher level, more elite level goaltending from Nashville and UC Saros. Could they pull off a massive trade? We'll discuss the potential there. We also have trade rumors involving the Calgary Flames, Toronto Maple Leafs, the latest rumors on Patrick Kane, where he might end up. We also have lots of recalls around the NHL injury updates. It's also a huge night for the Edmonton Oilers as they face the San Jose Sharks. All that more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton to cover here today. Let's get started first with a quick update on the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, we're going to talk more about the Oilers in the trade section here a little later. But first up, it's a huge night for them. They're going into battle the lowly San Jose Sharks. Not that the Oilers are really, when you think about it, all that far ahead of them in the standings, but this is a monumental game, and you would not think that this would have been the case at all for Edmonton, but certainly a case where they've struggled mightily out of the gate. The Sharks only have one win on the season. If the Oilers can't beat the Sharks, then they have way bigger problems than we ever thought. They did beat the Flyers the other night 2-1. They certainly played a bit better defensive game. Got some good goaltending from Mackenzie Blackwood. It's expected to be Stuart Skinner against Blackwood tonight. It's expected that before Pickard gets a start, they're likely going to give Skinner a little bit of a small runway here to see what he can do. This is a game that could be huge to get him back on track. So it makes sense to give him the start. So we'll see where that goes tonight. Jordan Eberle of the Seattle Kraken, another victim of a skate cut. Fortunately, this one is not like the last one we heard about, which was a tragic accident in England ending the life of young player Adam Johnson. But Eberle got a skate cut on his leg. He did have to leave the team. He went to hospital, had an MRI done. At this point, it doesn't sound like he's going to be out too terribly long, but it is something that they had to take seriously. Could have been a lot worse. I know there's a lot more players around the league starting to test out, or in some cases even wear neck guards and neck protection. I know a lot more players are wearing the special socks as well to protect like the back of their area, like the back of their leg, the Achilles area as well. There's protective sleeves. It's really getting to a point where skate blades are, if you think about it, they're quite a weapon on the ice, and there's a lot of them out there at one time. It's amazing we haven't had more accidents, but Eberle's good news is going to be okay, but we'll be out for a little while. The Kraken have recalled former number 4 overall pick just from a short time ago, Shea Wright. He gets recalled along with Ryan Winterton. Ryan Winterton, of course, will be the 3rd draft pick of the Kraken to play in the NHL. Former Hamilton Bulldog, had a chance to play in the Memorial Cup a while back. Also had a decent run in the AHL so far to his pro career. Will make his NHL debut this evening, so that's good on them. The Calgary Flames have called up young prospect goaltender Dustin Wolf, who many feel will be the goalie of the future, or at the very least a goalie of the future and the present, as he will hopefully be a full-time NHLer soon. I know I'll get a lot of people raising their eyebrows and kind of wondering if a trade was coming involving maybe Dan Vladar, who's expected to get moved at some point, but hard to say when that happens. But at this rate, it's not believed to be the case. Elliot Friedman checked into this and said that essentially it's insurance. So Jacob Markstrom had missed practice yesterday as a maintenance day. They're heading east on a road trip, so they just wanted to be able to have an extra goalie with them because they're not completely certain that Markstrom is going to be available the whole time. So it's really just for those purposes only for the time being. Of course, we saw a big battle of Ontario last night, the first one of the year between the Leafs and the Senators. The Leafs unfortunately fell 6-3. It's a huge win for the Sens to get back on track. Hopefully they get to follow that up tonight with Vancouver, who will be a huge test because they've been playing super well to start the season as well. But Toronto, who will face a couple of Western Canadian teams here in the next couple of days, they have a back-to-back with Calgary and Vancouver coming up this weekend. So they are certainly going to be looking to get back on track because they haven't been doing well as of late. I think they've got 1 win in their last 6, I believe it is. They've recalled Pontus Holmberg. They've sent down Max Lajoie. He seemed to run out of the, I guess you could say, the coach's trust real quick. One mistake and he was pretty much sent back down. So, I mean, at this point, the Leafs are kind of struggling defensively. Sheldon Keefe made comments after last night's loss to Ottawa saying, because he was asked bluntly, are you concerned about Klingberg? He said yes. He is, and he's also concerned just about the general overall team defense and penalty kill because they've been giving up way too much. Defensively, this team has taken a major step back, which is not what was expected this year. John Klingberg has been the first few games, he was all right. He's getting some assists. I think he's gone 7. I think it's 7 or 8 games. I think it's 7 for sure, with no points, and his defensive play has been horrendous. Now, I guess a lot of people might not have realized, but to be completely honest, I watched John Klingberg a lot in his career. He's never really been good defensively. So this isn't, earth-shattering news. But even by his standards, he seems to have gotten worse, which is certainly bad. Based on this morning's practice and their line rushes, it looks like we're going to see some lineup changes. I expect Holmberg to have a good chance to get in the lineup. Jake McCabe is also close to returning. He's not 100% he'll play tomorrow, but in case he is, they're either going to go 11-7, which means that Ryan Reeves might be the healthy scratch. That experiment's also kind of running thin already. Reeves has not really lived up to the expectations, you could say, that came with that multi-year contract that a lot of people had concerns with. Yes, he's there to be a deterrent. Yes, he's there to fight. He had a couple fights early on and hasn't really done much of anything since. Like, he does struggle to play a productive regular shift. You take away the fighting part of it, and he's not really a good NHL player, in my opinion. Like, is he scary? Sure. Is he, intimidating? Absolutely. Will teams not mess with the Leafs as much? I'm not really convinced that they will or won't. I don't know. Maybe it's more of a playoff thing. Hard to say. But at this point, I know a lot of the fan base is looking for Reeves to not even be a regular player, and he still has lots of runway and term left on that contract, which is bad. But hopefully things can turn around, I guess, in that case. But either way, the next game we're going to likely either see 11-7, where Klingberg stays in, but they have 7D, and he'll probably be one-to-one playing the least. And McCabe will come in. If McCabe can't go, then I expect that there's a chance Klingberg stays in, but he may not, though. He may not. There's still a chance Klingberg could come out. In the 11-7 scenario, Reeves would be the healthy scratch because they'd obviously be down a forward. If they go back to 12-6, then there's a pretty good chance Reeves might stay in and Klingberg comes out. Either way, one of them or both of them, depending on how everything goes over the next 24 hours, expected to be a healthy scratch against the Flames. So certainly two of their offseason additions that are not working out. The Leafs are starting to see some better play from Max Domi as of late. He seems to have been more comfortable playing center. He's been centering that third line, so he's doing better. Bertuzzi got a goal, his first even strength one last night, so slowly turning around for him. So if they can get those two guys going, at least it'll be a little bit better, because at one point all four of these new additions were really not doing well. David Kampf has struggled as well. He's a defensive center. You're not going to get much offense out of him, but even defensively, if you really watch the video on some of the goals they led lately, Kampf has been bad as well, out of position a lot. So they really need to get a lot more away from besides their top four guys. Like, their top four forwards are playing well. The supporting cast needs to be a lot better. Joseph Woll was not good last night. Typically, overall in the season, he has been. So I'm sure that's more of a one-off for him. At least I'm sure the Leafs are hoping that's the case. I know with the blue line, though, with Klingberg and the fact that he's frustrating a lot of people, the Leafs' first choice, based on the rumor mill, was Matt Dumba in the offseason, not Klingberg. And they were trying to sign Dumba, but they could not come to terms. Now, Dumba ended up signing for a little bit less. Klingberg's making a little over $4 million. Dumba's getting 3.9, but it's also in Arizona. I wonder if the tax differences, maybe he was willing to accept a little bit less to go there because he'd keep more of his paycheck because of the tax differences. That could have been a case. I'm not sure. Maybe earlier in the offseason when he was first talking to the Leafs, he was looking for probably a little bit more money, and they opted to take a little bit cheaper option with Klingberg, which just has not worked out. But Dumba was their first choice, and they were negotiating, and they were close, but never quite got there to do a deal. And I do really think that the Leafs at this point, and Brad Treliving, I don't know how long they're going to wait. I would say maybe not too long. They might want to wait and try to get this blue line healthy, just to see what they have, because McCabe has been out, Liljegren's been out. They might want to get him healthy if they can, just to see what the full regular 6 guys before they make a knee-jerk reaction here. But I really think that the rumor mill has been probably onto something, because there's lots of talk that Brad Treliving has been having conversations with his old team, the Calgary Flames, about they're getting a lot of attention. But between Zadorov and Chris Tanev, that he's looking at one. I mean, Friedman himself said, Elliot Friedman said that he thinks Brad Treliving would love to have both. I don't know if he could pull that off, but at least one of them, because they're both obviously more known for their defense than their offense. Tanev, to me, would be the better of the two. Hard to say what happens, but Treliving is going to be in the mix. I think other teams like the Oilers, Canucks as well have been in that mix looking at these Flames defensemen too. So they're going to have some competition. But we'll see what happens. If we see a Leafs and Flames trade, I would not be the least little bit surprised. We saw an interview with Trevor Linden. And Trevor Linden, of course, the longtime Canucks legend, former captain. Of course, had a big role in the organization for a few years before things kind of went sour between him and Jim Benning, and he left the organization, of course. Made some comments saying that Jim Benning did not want to draft Elias Pettersson in 2018, and that he really pushed for Jed Brackett to lead that draft and wanted to make sure they got Pettersson, and that Jimbo did not want to take him. He didn't specify which player he wanted, but there was a lot of rumors and speculation at the time that Benning wanted Cody Glass. I don't know if that's true, but to hear Trevor Linden talk, it just seems like a little bit, I'm not really sure why this is being really aired now. I mean, this is the old regime. The Canucks are obviously enjoying some success right now. The Benning regime has been out for a long enough period of time. I think a lot of people have moved on, and they don't need to rehash any negative things. Look forward to the future because this team is playing well under Rick Tocchet, and see what happens this year. But yeah, no big surprise to hear Trevor Linden's comments that things were pretty much, he said they had extremely different ways of thinking, very different viewpoints on how to handle things. He was thinking more about the future, and I think Benning was more looking for the present, is kind of what it sounded like. None of that will come as a surprise to longtime Canucks fans that have followed that team closely. In Pittsburgh as well, we get an update on Tristan Jarry. It sounds like they've kind of dodged a bullet that it's not going to be as bad as it seems. They have, for right now, though, recalled goalie prospect Joel Blomqvist. They've also had to send down Vinny Hinostroza to make it work cap-wise, but Tristan Jarry apparently tested, there was positive tests for concussion. So, he's seems to be clear that way, but he does have some eye swelling. I know Mike Sullivan said that one of his eyes is pretty much swelled shut. So obviously they have to wait for that to subside so he can get good vision. So it sounds like he won't be out too terribly long, which is, probably good considering they're also without Nedeljkovic, and then Holmberg has been kind of thrust into being the starting goaltender, even though he started the year as the number 3. Of course, lots of talk about Patrick Kane today on various sources. I've heard Frank Saravalli and Elliot Friedman both touch on this today in different articles and radio hits. Lots of talk that he's started to speak with teams. He's still going to speak with more. There's believed to be about 7 or 8 teams that are interested in Kane, but as Elliot Friedman pointed out today on the Jeff Merrick show, it's not even so much about who's interested in Kane, it's who's Kane interested in, because it's ultimately going to be more his choice. I mean, ultimately, teams find out Kane wants to go there, they're probably going to try to make it work. Out of the 8 teams, the ones that we've heard mention, the Rangers, because apparently he was not happy with how things went. He was excited to go to the Rangers and was very disappointed that he wasn't able to play to his full potential because of the injury. They didn't go that far. So I think he kind of would be interested in a redo if he was able to do that. So that might be something that they'll look to do. Hard to say if the Rangers can make it work, and we don't even know what kind of contract he's looking for. They're still not really clear based on NHL Insider's info if he wants like a short-term cheap deal just to chase a cup, or is he more looking for a longer-term deal where he can not only think he has a chance to chase a cup now, but maybe multiple times in the next few years. It's not really clear what he wants that way, so it's hard to say what teams are going to have to do, but you may have to see teams try to find a way to clear space to bring him in. Of course, the Red Wings have been mentioned. They're off to a good start, but they have slowed down. I think the allure there would be to reunite with Alex DeBrincat. I'm not sure really how important that is. I don't really see Detroit as being a cup contender. They obviously have a better shot at playoffs than I think a lot of people might have thought this year. But even if they are a playoff team, it's hard to see them as a contender. The Sabres, who are still lower in the standings right now, would be his hometown team. I think there would be obviously an affliction there to want to play for his hometown. I don't know if he wants to do that this year. Like I said, we don't know if he's looking for term or if he just wants a quick cup chase and maybe reevaluate next year, make sure he can still play at a high level. The Panthers have been a team that's been mentioned numerous times. The Dallas Stars. The Stars apparently, based on reports that Friedman was saying that he thinks they're more likely to address their defense, though. They may not really want to add up front as much, so getting him in there might be challenging. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Leafs, mainly because he's been training and doing a lot in Toronto. I don't know that there's a lot to that, though, to be completely honest. I know based on the insiders are saying that they're not ruling out Toronto. They think it's more of an outside chance, though. The odds are, it's a possibility, but not a great chance. The Avalanche have also been another team to be mentioned. They've been showing interest in Kane for a few years, but again, difficult to say if they can make it work. So we'll see. He has reportedly talked to one or two teams and is going to be talking to a bunch more between the rest of this week and next week. And I suspect that probably in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll likely be getting a lot closer to a decision, unless he, of course, has to wait for a team to clear space, and it could drag on a little bit further. More Flame speculation, of course, as they head on the road, as we talked about with the Dustin Wolf recall. We know there's a possibility Dan Vladar could get moved, but I don't think that's really in the mix right now. But there is still lots of talk about Noah Hanifin and Elias Lindholm. Those two guys are still getting lots of attention. We thought a Hanifin extension was coming, and then things really went off the rails for the Flames, so that certainly kind of changed gears, and Hanifin's camp kind of put everything on pause, as we talked about a while back now, and it's still kind of the same boat. Elliot Friedman mentioned a couple teams which I found surprising that are reportedly inquiring and are interested in Hanifin, and that included San Jose. Now, of course, Friedman agreed, which I thought was crazy, that it doesn't really see the fit there, but he was a little surprised to find out the Sharks had inquired. But the other team you mentioned was Arizona. Arizona's obviously off to a better start. They're more competitive this year, and he wondered if maybe they would try to push to acquire, at the deadline or beforehand to try to make themselves better and try to get into the playoffs. So we'll see, but those are the two surprising teams reportedly showing interest in Noah Hanifin right now. Of course, the Flames are also looking to make a deal to do something. And it's hard to say how they're going to do it, but they need to find a way to get Jonathan Huberdeau going. Of course, he was benched the other night. This is all new, unprecedented playing for him, where he's struggling so bad. I don't know, but their focus will be to try to get him going. So I suspect whatever deals they make, they're going to be looking for somebody to come in and play with him that can help him find his groove. So we'll see. Now, of course, when it comes to the Oilers and the goaltending situation, we know Campbell's been demoted, as we mentioned. Skinner's going to get a chance to run with things. Picker's been called up. But is that a really long-term solution? Not really. Most NHL reporters and insiders agree that Ken Holland is likely going to make a trade at some point in the not-too-distant future, and he appears to be fairly aggressive, calling around, having conversations, trying to figure out what he can find. We've talked a lot about Jake Allen and Jordan Binnington being potential targets. Some whispers about Carter Hart, but I haven't heard a lot. But another name that Elliot Friedman threw out as a potential target for them is Nashville Predators all-star goalie UC Saros. Now, there were some rumors about Saros maybe being moved in the offseason. Never came to be, obviously. New GM Barry Trotz at one point did make comments saying that he didn't really want to trade Saros, that he thought he could be a good piece for them in the future. I don't know. They made a lot of changes, and the team is still struggling. Slow out of the gate this year. Maybe he feels a little bit different now is kind of the thought around it. They do have Yaroslav Askarov in the minors. There's some talk maybe they would trade Askarov instead of Saros. And, would the Oilers do that? I don't know. I don't know if the Oilers would want to go for an unknown commodity. I think it was Saros, you know what you're getting, right? So, he doesn't have a lot of term on his contract. He's not making a ton of money. It'd be easier to figure out. I'm sure Nashville doesn't want Jack Campbell, though, so it would be complicated. They'd have to figure out a way to get off the Campbell contract, most likely. So it'll be challenging. But, they do have a variety of younger players that could be of interest if they did pull off a deal. They don't necessarily need a goaltender back, which is a good part. Would they ask for a guy like Evan Bouchard? Would they do that? It's hard to say. Defensively, he hasn't been good. Offensively, he's obviously gets a lot of power play time. Broberg, Holloway, Raphael Lavoie. I don't know what they're going to have to include, but I would imagine you're looking at first round picks being on the table and some of these prospects and younger players that would be of interest to Nashville. What Friedman mentioned is he thinks he's definitely Saros being a big target of the Oilers, but he did wonder if the price tag might just be too expensive to pull it off. I understand completely that he might be right at the top of their list. He's probably one of the better goalies out there that, might be available for trade. But at that level, considering how well he's played, a trade would be extremely difficult, I think, just because of the high cost. But we keep hearing cup or bust out of Edmonton. They only have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in their prime for so long. They have to take a chance and go for it here at some point if they're really going to want to win with this group. And they need to solidify not only the goaltending, but the blue line too. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit more to work at the blue line, but even a strong goalie could struggle with that defense, to be completely fair. When you're giving out grade A chances the way they've been, even an all-star level goaltender would probably do better than what they've seen, but is it going to be enough to get them a Stanley Cup? I honestly don't know. So let me know your thoughts about the possibility of Edmonton targeting UC Saros. Of course, the other goalies we've talked about in recent days, Binnington, Allen. What do you think they do? Clearly, Ken Holland has work to do. They need to figure out something. Not only do they need to find a way to get off the Campbell contract and move it, but they need to figure out a new guy to come in who can hopefully take them where they need to go. Let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.